Looking to the future and preparing Singapore for the challenges ahead is at the heart of every National Day rally speech. Tonight, Mr. Lee outlined some key things to note. First, the importance of strengthening national identity. Second, staying open and connected to the world. And third, ramping up a global talent pool.
Singaporeans are rightly concerned about the impact of large numbers of non-residents living and working here. I talked about this last year. The government is following up to tackle the problems and ease these concerns. But while we manage the overall population of foreign professionals here, we must not stop seeking out top talent who can contribute to our Singapore story.
And we're almost out of time. And to wrap up this evening's discussion, let's start with you, Lynn. National identity. What's significant for you there?
Well, I think it's quite clear that with heightened geopolitical tensions between the United States and China, no less, Singapore does need to strengthen national identity, not least because its domestic population is 75% Chinese. And if that 75% ethnic Chinese Singaporean population started taking the position that China takes on all issues, regardless of how what were in Singapore's best interest, then we would have trouble on our hands. So I think the Prime Minister was quite right to point that out as something that we need to address to strengthen Singapore's resilience moving forward. And I think Singapore has a very strong basis for doing so. I mean, Singapore didn't start off as a united nation. Singapore started off as disparate ethnic groups that forged a nation over decades of nation building. And so Singapore has in its institutional memory, if you like, the ability to do so. And I think it really needs to be able to focus on doing so. And of course, the domestic population as well in Singapore, the Chinese community in particular, need to remember that Singapore's interests do not equate necessarily to China's interests or to the United States' interests. For that matter. So I think that would be my take on his point on national identity.
And about building a global talent pool, Terence, what do you make of his point on staying open? And of course, Singaporeans' concerns about the rising number of foreign talents.
Yeah, I think this was a very important and timely reminder that, remaining open to capital, to talent, to ideas is really the lifeblood of Singapore as a small, open economy. It's really fundamental to our economic survival and competitiveness. At the same time, there is also a subtext, of course, that this openness must benefit all Singaporeans, that we need to mitigate some of the downsides and some of the unintended consequences of the increased competition, of course, of prices and so on and so forth. And I think that also ties in quite neatly with the emphasis on building infrastructure for the future as well. It's one way to give Singaporeans and Singapore workers a premium for the equivalent skill levels that we have in terms of being connected, being a hub, being a global city. Grace,
final thoughts?
I think my final thoughts are linked to Lynn's. This question of sovereignty, which was raised in the speech today, it's not just about the external position, but also the internal dimension of, beefing up Singaporeans' understanding of the vulnerabilities, the history, sort of inoculating them against the disinformation campaigns, that have gathered pace. And I think PM, in his Chinese speech, raised certain questions like, don't believe everything you read online. Where did the news come from? Or what's the motive? Do I really need to forward it to my friends? And, this aspect of, media literacy, evidence-based critical thinking, I think is really, really crucial. But he also used this wonderful phrase, that the next few decades will be bracing but exhilarating. Like the fact that, in the midst of challenges, there's this message of, we're forward thinking and there's hope, and, there's actually joy in the process. And I think that's what we need to take away from, an annual policy speech that's not just about the challenges, but also, plans for the future.